Like and subscribe right now, or otherwise, don't watch.
All right, so today I'm here with a guy that needs no introduction, Kaynan Duarte, and we're gonna go over what we think it takes to make the modern BJJ athlete. The first thing I wanna talk about, let's talk a little bit about your journey. What sort of things have you noticed over the years, say from like blue and purple belt, lessons that you've learned, things that you've observed and made changes to, compared to how you operate with things now at brown and then primarily at black belt?
I would say in my blue belt and purple belt, I was training every day like hard, like every day, a lot of rounds and being like exhausted, like every day getting exhausted. And nowadays, I don't do the same. I focus more in my technique and I try more to train hard like twice a week. And back then I used to like train harder every day. And then I used to get hurt. I used to go to competition, usually like sometimes very tired, you know?
Okay.
And nowadays, close to the competition, I don't train as hard. I try training like more slow, more chill before the competition, so I can be in the competition very, very fresh. I think that's the difference. Yeah.
When did you start to make that change?
When I started like knowing about myself more, I felt that I was getting results, but I wasn't feeling my best in competition, you know? A lot of times I remember that when I got to the competition, I was feeling like not with a lot of energy, tired. And then I believe that I started changing my trainings more when I got my black belt, when I was becoming more pro.
If you can remember, what is a specific event where you feel like you had the best preparation and you executed the best?
I think the first time that I have the best preparation was when I was brown belt, because I strength conditional coach, I think remember when we start. And then I felt the difference because I had someone to guide me. Besides jiu-jitsu, we need to work our conditioning, our strength. I think it's very important, especially for don't get hurt, get stronger, faster. And that's when, I think it was my brown belt.
Is there a time you can think of where you felt like you mismanaged your preparation? Like preparation didn't go well? Regardless of how you performed, did you go into that feeling like you did it wrong? Is there a time that comes to mind for that?
I believe yes, a few times. I think like everything, you know, it takes time for you to start correcting and start knowing yourself more, because I think strength and conditioning is very personal, you know. You need to work what you need. You know, I might need something, you might need a different thing. And there's multiple times that I started training too much, that I felt like, I don't know, I wouldn't say like overtraining, but I felt like tired, and I felt that I didn't want to train anymore. And then this started affecting my mental also, you know. It's not just the physical body, but if you start training wrong or you pass the point, you start affecting your mental, and then you don't perform well.
Let's actually talk about that for a second. So mental preparation. I know it's really tough for a lot of people. You know, you're constantly training in this team environment. When you're in the training room, you have people to ask questions, you're getting input, right? It's a very collaborative effort when you're training. But when you compete, it's very isolating. You're very much left on your own, and while you can still get input, it's a very intense and scary experience. Talk to me about what you do mentally, or things that you've noticed, or skills that you've picked up in terms of mental preparation and how you apply those now.
Before the preparation, usually, even in training, a lot of times I like to visualize myself like in the tournament, in the day of the competition, getting into the stadium. For you to feel confidence in competition, you need to start feeling confidence in training. So every time that I don't feel well in training, I start like just thinking about like being present, you know. When I lose positions, I try to, sometimes it's hard to do it, but I try to don't get frustrated. And that's one thing that helped me, because if you make a mistake, you cannot correct the mistake, but you can do better like in the next move. And another thing in competition, I think what make me more calm, I like to meditate a little bit. Like I like to breathe a lot so I can start being more present. And I don't think about the results much. I think more like about the moves during the mat.
So you mentioned a few times too focused on the result, right? And there's a lot of popular terms in psychology nowadays talking about being more process-driven than result-driven, right? Knowing that certain steps in the process will eventually give you that result that you're looking for, and not just focusing on that result, which can sort of add pressure. Do you think that you've sort of like lived that?
Yes, definitely. That's what makes me more confident, you know, because when I agree to compete somewhere, like let's say usually I take like 8 weeks minimum, like for if I'm out of shape, depends a lot if I'm in good shape or if I'm not in good shape. But usually for big competition, I need like between 8 to 12 weeks. But during this way for the tournament, for me feeling confident, I need to do everything that I can to get into the shape that I want, to feel confident. And for me getting confidence, I need to work out well. I have to follow some program, because I start feeling that I deserve to win. And if I don't follow, if I don't eat well, if I don't work out well, I just work out in the days that I want to, I might be like lying to myself. And then when the tournament comes, I might not feel very confident. That's how I feel it.
So you feel like your routine and structure helps provide confidence come the day you compete?
100%. 100%.
In a lot of other sports, be it football, soccer, American football, basketball, etc., these guys have a definitive like preseason, season, postseason, and then off season. And a lot of these guys, you know, will purposefully, as soon as the off season starts, they'll go on vacation, they'll get a break from their sport, even though they're the best in the world at it, and they get paid millions of dollars to do it. Yeah. It's very important for a lot of those athletes, both physically and mentally, to get away from those very repetitive tasks that they do all the time, especially if they want to have a long, successful career. Now, unfortunately, in jiu-jitsu, yes, there's like the typical IBJJF like gi and no gi season, but there's not much of a break between, yes. And it's very blurry. Like some competitors, as I'm sure we know, don't ever take time off. And ever since I've known you, after a hard camp, you make a point to, you travel, you go do something that is separate from jiu-jitsu. Of course, I'm sure, you know, if you line up seminars or whatever, you do some, but it's very, very different than those 8 or 12 weeks you had prior. When did you start to think that that was important?
I think I never think about that. I was just feeling, especially after camps, like long camp is very tiring, like for my body, for my mental, and I want to come back stronger. I want to be happy in trainings. For me, performance, for me have a good performance. And that's why usually after my big tournaments, competition, camps, I like to take a break to rest my body and rest my mental so I can come back and continue the journey. And also, like there's so many competitions during the years, like there's competition every month, but you cannot be on your peak in every competition. Like I think it's impossible. So that's why you need to pick whatever competition that's your main goal.
When you do take that time off, towards the end, do you find that you're excited to go back to jiu-jitsu? Like that you actually want to be there?
Yes, so excited, because imagine it, like I'm training every day usually, like for competition. I train like maybe like 4 hours a day, 4 to 5 hours a day. And then after the competition, I don't train pretty much like 40 minutes a day or like 1 hour twice a week. My body is not used to that, but it's good for my body to recover, because hurt our body, like, and also our mental, like you start getting so much like pressure, you know. It's a lot of pressure because you have to perform every time. And then, but towards the end, after my competition, after my vacation, I start feeling that I want to train again, and that's why I do this. I like to train a break, but I think it's a personal thing, you know. I just feel that it works for myself, and might work for someone else also. But I feel that a lot of athletes, they never take a break, and they always in good shape in the academy. But when it comes to the competition, I think they feel so much pressure on themselves that they can't perform.
Okay, you sort of touched on this a little bit. Walk me through a typical week in the middle of camp in terms of jiu-jitsu specific training sessions, and if you can, tell me which ones are more drilling oriented and which ones are like hard live training. So tell me what a week looks like that, and then also where strength and conditioning fits into that.
I think in the middle of the camp, that's when we start pushing a lot, because in the beginning of the camp, we don't push so hard because we want to, but our body is not ready. Our mind wants to do things, but our body doesn't answer. So first, in the beginning of the camp, I think it's very important for you to make your body used to training hard. And then in the middle of the training, that's when usually we start like doing a lot of specific training so we can work our technique. Let me give an example. Like, I want to work my front headlock. So I need to start from the front headlock, because a lot of times in the live training, you might not get in that position. So that's why we repeat a lot. Attack and defend, because when you learn to attack, you learn to defend as well, and either way. And then also we do a lot of live, like sparring sessions, like long rounds. And then that's when we train the most, like the most hard, I think, is the middle of the camp. And more towards the end of the camp, we start doing just more specific trainings and light sparring, so we can start recovering for the how hard training since the beginning of the camp. And then also we start recovering for the competition.
How many hard live sessions? You said somewhere around 2?
Hard sessions?
Yeah.
A day?
Per week.
Per week. The middle of the camp, depends a lot. Depends what camp is for, you know. Depends a lot of the competition. But usually it's like between 2 to 3 times a week, like hard sessions. So
2 to 3, you still feel like you can give your best during those sessions because you're recovered enough in between, but you're still getting enough time going live where you feel that improvement, right?
Yes, exactly. And also we rest more in the weekends. And usually too, I take a break in the middle of the week, because we train hard. We train like, I would say like 75% like hard on Monday, just to warm up the body. And then Tuesday we train like very hard, because we know that Wednesday we're gonna take off. And then Thursday and Friday we are already more tired from the week, and then we started doing more specific training.
Okay.
And between all these trainings, also I do strength and conditioning, like between, I would say like 3 times a week.
About 3 a week for strength and conditioning. For the jiu-jitsu specific sessions, if there's a day throughout the week where you don't do any live, are you still supplementing that with drilling or with anything that's specific to the techniques that you're working on? Depends
a lot. Most of the times I do techniques, but also depends how hard I'm training also, because in the camp, you cannot lie to yourself. You know, you need to like do as much as you can, but sometimes if you feel that sometimes I feel that I'm so stressed with training, I like to take a break. Don't feel guilty about, you know, because a lot of times we don't train and feel very guilty. So if you take a day off, try to take a day off to enjoy yourself, and then the next day you come back like 100%.
Okay, this touches on something that I talk to a lot with my athletes, and it's that feeling of guilt. I wasn't sure if we would touch on it today, because up until this point I've never heard you mention that, but how do you overcome that when you know the better decision is to not train? Like there's athletes that I've worked with where they go, I know I should probably take today off, but it feels worse for me feeling guilty than it does pushing through a training session that I shouldn't be doing. How do you overcome that? How do you come up with a plan, or what do you tell yourself so that you don't sit home on that rest day just feeling guilt?
So first, when I decide when I should not train is when I feel that I'm gonna get sick. Let's say that I feel that my immunity is kind of low, because a lot of times when you push your body to the maximum, like your immunity a lot of times can go down, and then if you push harder, you're gonna get sick. Or sometimes when I feel that I'm going to get hurt in the training, but how you think that? It's just your body telling you. I think you have to listen a lot to your body. And then also when I feel that I'm not gonna have a good quality of training, because I know that I'm so tired. And that's a choice, or you go and have a bad training, or you stay home and don't feel guilty. Because if you stay home, you choose to stay home, so don't feel guilty about it.
Right, and it's also because you've sort of like earned that, right? You're not just staying home because you want to. The day before, you trained so hard that you know that staying home is actually productive.
Yes.
Okay, when you talked about the quality of training just now, tell me about times that you've done that wrong, where maybe you didn't pay attention to these warning signs that you mentioned, and you go and you train anyways, right? Tell me about the times where you haven't ignored the guilt. You've listened to it. You've gone and trained because you felt guilty. You mentioned like getting sick. You mentioned getting hurt. Those are obviously extremes. That's like really bad, right? Yes. What are other days where you've gone where you just know the quality isn't there? What have you observed?
When I feel that I should not training and I still go, my body doesn't answer, like doesn't respond the way that I want to. And I feel that I can't be present, and I don't know, I just don't feel happy training. Like,
okay.
I'm not feeling happy training. That's what happens when I'm not like there. That's when I don't like to go.
Okay. I think the thing that people struggle with is that sometimes they think resting is just taking the easy way out. And if I just didn't train Saturday and Sunday, and then I'm just feeling a little comfortable in bed Monday and I don't want to go, that's not productive, because I've just had 2 rest days, right? Like, you're gonna go on Monday.
Yes.
But if you just had really, really hard rounds on Monday, and maybe your joints are feeling achy, or you feel like mentally you're not gonna be present for Tuesday, or whatever day it might be, if you trained really hard the day before and it was productive, that's what allows you to not feel guilty if you have to take a rest day.
Yes.
Outside of like getting hurt or whatever else, what does that look like for you when it's not a good quality, when you know that you shouldn't have gone, that you needed rest more than training? What does that training session look like for you?
Whew. You cannot even like hit a move. You start getting cramp because you're not well recovery, and maybe you didn't have enough time to put a lot of nutrients into your body. You start getting tired much easier, and pretty much you're just having a bad day. You're just there.
You're like the training dummy that everyone else gets to drill on.
Yeah, you're just there, but you're not there. But there's a day like when I don't feel like 100%, even if I feel tired, I still go, because I don't go to training like just in the days that I'm feeling great, A lot of days I'm tired, but I still go. But then in those days, what I like to do, I like to train my defense, because that can happen during the match also. Like when you're very tired, your opponent attacking you, and you're just working your defense. And while he's attacking you, he's expending a lot of energy also, and that's when you can overcome. But it's the difference I'm talking right now is just not when I'm tired to train. I'm saying like when I'm feeling that I should not train because I'm feeling like my immunity, when I'm feeling like not healthy to train.
Right. There's like multiple things stacked up against you.
Yes.
And yeah, to clarify, you're not saying like, oh, you should only train when you feel perfect.
No.
Right? Obviously then you would never get hard training in.
Yes.
But it's when you feel multiple things adding up. Like you mentioned nutrition, you mentioned sleep, you mentioned cramping, like lots of different things that are all contributing where you know that there's no way, and it's even affecting you mentally, right? So,
yeah, definitely.
So you have like a threshold, like a point where like obviously you don't have to be perfect, But if you get so worn down from hard training that you get below a certain point, it's probably more useful to rest and get back above that so that your next session can be better, right? Because if you have that training session down here, then what's the next one going to look like? It's probably even lower.
You're not making progression. You make like, I don't know if the right word is regression.
No, exactly.
Yeah, regression.
Yep. Another thing that I know about you just from talking to you personally, you value your sleep.
Yes.
And that's something that more people should do, but like go ahead and tell some of the viewers, like what does that look like for you?
Usually I try to have, it's not every day that I can have, but I try to have at least like 8 hours during the camp. Sometimes I sleep like 10 hours straight. And usually in the weekends, like 11, 12 hours, a lot.
Man.
Yeah, there's a lot. But I think I don't know, I think it's personal. But also I feel that as much bigger that you are, you have more strength, but you expend more energy also. Mm-hmm. So like a car, you have a powerful car, require more gas, you're gonna expend more gas. So that's what I usually do. But it's not every day that I can do it, because a lot of days I have like 2-3 sessions during the day, so I have to prioritize my sleep.
So you notice it the next morning. If you're good about your sleep habits, if you're not on your phone a ton, the very next morning you already feel an improvement in energy and everything else?
No, definitely, I feel. And when in some camp or like you have a big competition, the coach is not doing the training only for yourself. He's doing the training for the whole team. Mm-hmm. He's making the training for everyone, and then that's up to you during the day how you're gonna train, In the specific training is really good because everyone can work in the same technique. I think it's good for everyone. But when it comes to the rounds, long rounds, like 10 minutes round, 15 rounds, depends how you feel, You cannot go hard like every day. So that's up to you how you're gonna train.
Right.
Or you're just gonna start struggling, like you're very tired, but you're trying to go hard. You're not gonna have the same results when you're well rested. So that's when you have to like, oh well, now I'm gonna train my defense. Today is the day of not letting my opponent get my back, or guard retention. Let them pass and just work your defense. Don't let him submit you.
Mm-hmm. So you use strategy to still get something out of a training session that otherwise you might have been too tired for.
Yes, exactly.
That's excellent. I like that. So that brings me to another question. I know that you like to travel, that you go around, you teach seminars.
Who not, right?
Well, right. But when you've been to other academies, when you see the way that other people train, are there things with the way that you see people learning jiu-jitsu that you think they could do better? Like, is there something that's common that people, in your eyes, like they're not getting the most out of their training because they do that?
I think a lot of places, I think it's a personal thing, but I always try to share with them, especially when I go to teach seminar and things like that. I always tell them like, hey, training is not just about going hard, you don't need to prove yourself every day, because people want to prove themselves. Oh, I'm good, or like I want to go hard, give you my best for you to help you. That's a good thing, but it's not every day that you're gonna be able to go hard, that hard. So you just improving your attacking, being aggressive, but are you really working your technique? Are you like developing? Are you feeling that you're improving? You need to ask yourself that, I think.
It's almost similar to the weight room, right? There's some days where you move more weight than you've ever done that. But if you try to do that every time, that's not sustainable. It's not a good way to train consistently. Some days you come in here and you just work on your strength training technique, or a specific exercise or whatever. And it seems like you approach jiu-jitsu the same way, where some days like this is the day where I go hard. Yes. And then other days, because you can't do that anyways, you find ways to make your time on the mat productive. Yes. Because you can't do that.
Definitely. When I'm very beat up from trainings, jiu-jitsu training, because my main goal is train jiu-jitsu, and the strength conditioning is like something to add, to supplement my jiu-jitsu. And I just come to the gym, and then I start lifting like a little lighter, and then when I'm feeling more rest, I put more weight. Mm-hmm. But it took me time to figure these things out, you know, because people can say like, hey, you're not gonna train, or like, but you're the only person that I know how you feel, you know. I might ask you like, should I train? But like, I know if I can or not. And I know if I'm being lazy or I'm being smart about my training.
So I know, I think you were still a purple belt at the time when you had that knee surgery.
Yes.
Now, I don't know a ton of the specifics because I know you went back to Brazil for the knee surgery and stuff, but do you feel like, that was a purple belt?
I was purple belt, yeah.
Purple belt. Do you think like some of the lessons that you've learned now have prevented you from having a similar type of injury? Like, do you think the way that you approach training and the weight room and everything else is healthier for you?
Oh, definitely. It's hard to predict, you know, because I had surgery, my meniscus. I how can I say, like, turned my meniscus?
You tore it, yeah.
And I had to do surgery. It might be because I wasn't training properly, you know. I was training wrong. I was training too much. I wasn't getting enough rest. I wasn't lifting the right way. Because I feel that nowadays I don't get hurt. Like, I don't, of course, like during camps, hard camps, sometimes you get hurt, but not serious injury. And back then I had the surgery in my knee, and then I was competing so much, traveling so much that I didn't have a like periodization?
Periodization.
Yeah, periodization, yeah.
And I even noticed that recently, you know, a few months back, you had like that groin injury, and immediately you were trying to think of a smart plan for getting it back. You know, and you recovered faster than you thought you would.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like,
Was scared.
Right. Well, because especially something like a groin injury, man, that can stay with you for a while. But I think another part of it is that you've learned how to interpret that signal from your body, and you changed things. You changed your lifting here. You were doing more drilling instead of live rounds, so you didn't irritate it. From the outside, at least, it seems like you're learning those lessons and you're applying them so that you don't keep making the same mistakes and end up hurt.
And especially when you get hurt and you have a big competition coming up, you always tell yourself, fuck, like, why is this happening now, and what am I gonna do now? But I think when things happen like that, you just need to focus in recovery, because if you feel that you should train, you're just getting more hurt. You're getting more hurt, and you're not really helping yourself.
Right. No, and I think something that I've noticed as a coach is that I think in jiu-jitsu, everyone talks about how injuries are so common. And what I really think a bigger part of the root issue is that people have what's a pretty minor injury and they choose to ignore it. They don't focus on recovery. They don't have a plan to get back. They just ignore it until it gets so bad that they can't ignore it. You know, and even you with that, you know, you had a tournament coming up. You felt pressure from it, but you didn't feel so much pressure that you ignored it. You still addressed the problem. You know, it was like you said before about like getting swept. Like, you can't change that. You know, you can't change the fact that you have this injury, but what you can do is be intelligent with how you deal with it. And it's at least obvious from the outside that you're trying to be very thoughtful with that approach, something that I think could benefit more people at large.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just because you can avoid, you know, and man, I can count in my fingers like a tournament that I never had something going on, you know. Always gonna be something, so that's how you deal with that.
And you feel like you've gotten better at that?
Yeah, I got better, but I'm saying like there's always something that is gonna happen, you know.
Right.
There's no camp that it will be like perfect.
You're
you
fighting.
know? Yeah.
Have you learned a lot from people outside your immediate circle? Like, do you have good relationships with people at other gyms that you travel to and train at? Do you like that social aspect of like being connected with the community throughout the world?
Oh, definitely. It's a great thing about jiu-jitsu. That's the thing, you know. Everywhere that you go, if you put a good seed, you always like can come back, you know. And I think it's a great thing about jiu-jitsu, because it doesn't matter where you go. We don't need to speak the same language, but we do jiu-jitsu, you know.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, coach.